The stars had always been quiet near station. For 30 years, humanity's farthest colony had floated in the darkness without trouble. The miners dug their tunnels. The farmers grew their crops in glass domes. The children played in artificial gravity, never knowing the blue skies of Earth. Life was simple and peaceful. Then the came. Commander Park was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He dropped his cup and ran to the command center, his boots heavy on the metal floor. Around him, soldiers and officers rushed to their stations. Red lights flashed on every wall. "Report," shouted as he entered the bridge. Lieutenant stood at the main screen, her face pale. She was young, only 26, but she had proven herself many times. Right now, her hands were shaking. "Sir, we have contact. Multiple ships, big ones." The screen flickered and showed the space around station. Felt his stomach drop. There were hundreds of ships. No, thousands. They filled the darkness like a swarm of metal insects. Each one was larger than anything humanity had ever built. The biggest ship sat in the center, a mountain of black steel covered in strange symbols. "What are they?" asked. "Unknown, sir. We have never seen this design before. They are not responding to our standard greeting signals." Walked closer to the screen. He had served in the military for 22 years. He had fought pirates. He had survived accidents. He had buried friends, but he had never seen anything like this. "Try all frequencies, all languages in our database." Worked at her console. Minutes passed. The bridge was silent except for the beeping of machines. Everyone watched the alien fleet, waiting for something to happen. Then the main screen changed. A face appeared. Had seen many things in his life, but this face would stay in his nightmares forever. The creature was huge, at least 8 feet tall based on the proportions. Its skin was like gray stone, covered in natural armor plates. 4 eyes, all yellow, stared from a flat face. When it spoke, its mouth revealed rows of black teeth. The translator struggled to convert the sounds. The creature spoke in clicks and growls, like bones breaking and rocks grinding together. But slowly, words appeared on the screen in Korean. "Small creatures, we are the Empire. We have come to claim this system. You will submit or you will die. There is no other choice." Felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. A good commander never showed fear or rage to the enemy. "This is Commander Park of the United Earth Colonial Forces. This system belongs to humanity. We do not submit to anyone." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You do not understand. We have conquered 17 star systems. We have destroyed civilizations older than your entire species. Your small weapons cannot hurt us. Your small ships cannot escape us. Submission is your only path to survival." On the bridge, heard someone whisper a prayer. He understood the fear. The alien was probably telling the truth. Humanity had been traveling between stars for only 200 years. They were bobbies in a universe full of ancient giants. But remembered something his father had told him long ago. A small dog can still bite, and sometimes a bite is enough to make the big dog think twice. "What do you want?" asked. The alien leaned closer to the screen. "We are not barbarians. We offer you a chance, a trial of combat. 1 warrior from your side against 1 warrior from ours. If you win, we will leave this system for 100 of your years. If we win, you will surrender everything. Your station, your people, your lives." Looked at with wide eyes. "Sir, we cannot." Raised his hand to silence her. "What kind of combat?" "Ranged weapons. Your people seem to favor them. We will test which species has the superior aim." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed. "We are being generous. Our warriors have perfect vision. They can see heat, movement, and light that your eyes cannot detect. Our champion has killed 900 enemies with his rifle. He has never missed a target that mattered." Thought about the soldiers on his station. They had good people, trained people, but none of them were special forces snipers. They were engineers, medics, pilots, and supply officers, regular soldiers doing regular jobs on a quiet colony. And yet smiled. "We accept your challenge." The bridge went silent, stared at him like he had lost his mind. Other officers exchanged worried looks. The alien on the screen tilted its massive head. "You accept without knowing our full terms, without requesting time to prepare." "I accept," repeated. "Name the time and place." The alien studied him for a long moment. "You are either very brave or very foolish, small creature. The trial will happen at dawn on the moon below your station. Bring your champion. We will bring ours." The screen went dark. Immediately, rushed to side. "Sir, with respect, what are you doing? We do not have a sniper on this station. We do not have anyone who can compete with an alien super soldier with 900 kills." Turned to face his crew. They all looked scared. He did not blame them. They had just seen an invasion fleet that could destroy them in minutes. They had just heard their commander accept an impossible challenge. "Listen to me," said, his voice firm but kind. "I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that we are doomed. You are thinking that I have made a terrible mistake." He walked to the window and looked out at the alien ships. They hung in space like dark promises of death. "But I have not made a mistake. I have given us a chance." He turned back to his crew. They think they know what humans are. They see small bodies and weak eyes. They see a young species with primitive technology. They think we are easy prey. Smiled again, and this time there was something dangerous in it. "They do not know what we really are. They do not know what every human carries inside them. 2 million years of evolution. 2 million years of hunting, fighting, and surviving against creatures bigger and stronger than us. We did not become the dominant species on Earth because we were the fastest or the strongest. We became dominant because we learned to throw things and hit what we aimed at." He looked at each face on the bridge. Every single person on this station qualified with a rifle before they were allowed to serve. Every single one. We do not have a special sniper because we do not need one. Any human can be a sniper. It is in our blood. It is in our bones. It is who we are. His expression changed from fear to something else. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. "So who will you choose, sir?" she asked. Thought about it for a moment, then he laughed softly. "I will let them see the truth. I will pick someone random, someone ordinary. And when that ordinary human beats their greatest champion, they will finally understand what they are dealing with." He turned back to the window, watching the alien fleet. "They asked who our sniper is. Tomorrow they will learn the answer, and they will never forget it." The shuttle landed on the gray dust of the moon at exactly 6 in the morning. Commander Park stepped out first, followed by 32 of his soldiers. They wore their standard combat suits, nothing special. Their boots left prints in the ancient dust that had never known rain or wind. Across the landing zone, the delegation was already waiting. Admiral stood at the front, his massive body blocking the weak sunlight. He was even bigger in person than he had appeared on the screen, 9 feet tall, covered in gray armor plates that grew from his own skin. His 4 yellow eyes watched the humans approach with clear amusement. Behind him stood 50 warriors, each one a giant compared to the humans. But one stood apart from the others. He was slightly shorter than, but his body was covered in scars that cut through his natural armor. In his hands, he held a long rifle made of black metal and bone. This was the champion. 900 kills, the finest marksman in the Empire. Stopped 10 meters from the aliens. The two groups faced each other in silence. "You came," said. His translator turned his growls into flat Korean words. "I did not expect you to actually appear. Most species run when they see our fleet." "Humans do not run," replied. Made that grinding sound again, the one that might have been laughter. "We shall see. Where is your champion?" Turned to look at his soldiers. They stood in neat rows, their faces hidden behind helmet visors. Engineers, medics, pilots, communications officers, supply workers, not a single elite sniper among them. Lieutenant stood near the front, her hand resting on her sidearm. Next to her was Corporal Minu, the unit armorer, a quiet man who spent most of his time fixing weapons and reading old books. Behind them were dozens of ordinary soldiers who had never expected to face anything more dangerous than a mining accident. His eyes moved across the group. He was looking for someone specific, someone who would prove his point perfectly. He found her near the back. Sergeant Lee was 24 years old. She had joined the military to pay for her education and ended up assigned to station as a logistics officer. Her job was managing supplies, making sure the station had enough food, medicine, and equipment. She had never fired a weapon in combat. She had never even seen real combat. Her entire military experience was spreadsheets and inventory lists. She was perfect, Her said, pointing at. The reaction was immediate. The translator clicked and buzzed as it tried to convey the confusion of the alien delegation. His face twisted into something that might have been disbelief. Evan's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. "This female," the Admiral asked. "This small one in the back, she is your elite warrior." Among the humans, his visor had gone transparent from shock. Her eyes were wide, her mouth open. She looked at like he had just announced her death sentence. "Sir," her voice came through the helmet radio, small and confused. "There must be a mistake. I am not. I have never." Walked toward her, his boots crunching on the moon dust. The other soldiers parted to let him through. When he reached, he stood close enough to speak privately through their helmet connection. "Sergeant, do you trust me?" Swallowed hard. "Sir, I am a logistics officer. I count boxes and schedule deliveries. The last time I fired a rifle was in basic training 3 years ago." "Did you pass?" "Yes, but..." "Did you qualify as marksman?" Paused. "Yes, but that was just targets at a range. This is completely different. That alien has killed 900 people." Put his hand on her shoulder. Through the suit she could feel the weight of it, steady and calm. "Sergeant, I am going to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it. Not just with your ears, but with your heart." He looked into her eyes through the visor. "You are a human being. Your ancestors survived ice ages, predators, famines, and wars. They did it by throwing rocks at things and hitting them. Every single one of your grandparents, going back 2 million years, was good enough with a projectile to survive and have children. That skill is not something you learned in basic training. It is something you were born with." His breathing was fast and shallow. "But the alien. The alien is a predator. His species evolved to chase prey and kill it up close. They learned to use rifles only a few thousand years ago. We have been throwing things since before we were even fully human." Squeezed her shoulder. "He has 900 kills because he has fought 900 times. You have 2 million years of genetic practice. Trust your instincts. They will not fail you." He turned and walked back to face. The Admiral was watching with clear impatience. "You choose this one, truly. She does not look like a warrior." "She does not need to look like one," said. "She is human, that is enough." Turn 2. The champion stepped forward, his rifle held across his chest. Up close, the weapon was terrifying. It was almost as long as was tall, covered in symbols that might have been kill marks or prayers. "Little human," said, his voice a deep rumble through the translator. "I have killed creatures 10 times your size. I have shot enemies through walls of steel. I have hit targets that your eyes could not even see." He leaned down, bringing his face closer to his helmet. "You will be number 901. Felt her heart pounding. Her hands were sweating inside her gloves. Every part of her brain was screaming that this was wrong, that she should refuse, that she was going to die on this gray moon far from home. But somewhere deeper than her brain, somewhere in her blood and her bones, something else was waking up. Something old, something patient, something that had been waiting for exactly this moment. She looked up at the giant alien, and said the words before she even realized she was speaking. "We will see." Pulled back, surprised by her tone, eyes narrowed. "The trial will begin in 1 hour," the Admiral announced. "3 targets at random distances. The first to hit all 3 wins. If your champion fails, your species submits to our rule." He looked at. "Are you certain you want this female? We will allow you to choose again." Shook his head. "I chose her for a reason. I will not change my mind." Stared at him for a long moment. "You are strange creatures. You face death and you do not tremble. You send your weakest against our strongest. Either you know something we do not, or you are the most foolish species we have ever conquered." Smiled behind his visor, "Perhaps both." They turned and walked back to their side of the landing zone. The humans gathered around, forming a protective circle. Corporal Minu was the first to speak. "Come with me, Sergeant. We have 1 hour to prepare. I need to adjust a rifle for you, and I need to tell you some things about our enemy." Nodded, still feeling like she was in a dream. "I do not understand why the commander chose me." Minu smiled as he led her toward the shuttle. "By the end of this hour, you will, and you will realize that they have made a terrible mistake." Behind them, the twin suns of the system rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the ancient moon. In 1 hour, everything would change. In 1 hour, humanity would show the galaxy what they truly were. Did not know it yet, but she was about to become the most important person in human history. The inside of the shuttle was warm compared to the frozen moon outside. Sergeant Lee sat on a metal bench, while Corporal Minu worked on a rifle at the small table in front of her. His hands moved with the careful skill of someone who had spent years learning every part of every weapon humanity had ever made. Watched him work, but her mind was somewhere else. She kept seeing his face. She kept hearing his voice. 901. That was what she would become, just another number in his collection of kills. "You are thinking about death," Minu said without looking up. Blinked. "How did you know?" "Because I would be thinking about it too." He finished adjusting something on the rifle and held it up to check the alignment. "But you are thinking about it wrong." "Wrong? There is a right way to think about death." Minu set the rifle down and looked at her. He was older than by about 10 years, with a thin face and calm eyes. He never seemed to get excited or scared about anything. Even now, with an alien invasion fleet hanging above them, he looked as peaceful as a monk. "You are thinking about death as something that will happen to you," he said. "You need to start thinking about death as something you will give to others." Shook her head. "You sound like the commander. He talks about human instincts and genetic memory, but I am just a logistics officer. I have never killed anyone. I do not know if I can." Minu stood up and walked to a small screen on the wall. He pressed some buttons and an image appeared. It showed a group of primitive humans thousands of years ago standing on a dry grassland. They were small, thin, and had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor. "Do you know what these are?" Minu asked. "Our ancestors, early humans." "Yes, look at them. Really look." He pointed at the image. "They have no fur to protect them from the cold. They have no speed to outrun predators. They have no strength to fight lions or bears. By every measure, they should have died out millions of years ago." Studied the image. The early humans did look weak, fragile even. Standing next to the giant aliens outside, they would look like children. "But they did not die out," she said. "No, they became the most successful hunters on Earth. They killed mammoths that weighed 10,000 kilograms. They drove saber-toothed cats to extinction. They conquered every environment on the planet." Minu changed the image. Now it showed a human throwing a spear. "Do you know how?" "Thought about it. Tools." "Partly, but other animals use tools. Crows use sticks. Monkeys use rocks." He shook his head. "The real answer is this. Humans are the only species on Earth that can throw things accurately." He let that statement hang in the air. "Think about it," he continued. A chimpanzee can throw a rock, but it cannot aim. It might hit something one time out of 20, but a human child can throw a ball and hit a target most of the time. By the time that child is an adult, they can throw a stone and hit a moving rabbit from 30 meters away. Frowned, that does not seem special. It is incredibly special. It is the most special thing about our species. Minyu walked back to the table and picked up the rifle. Our brains evolved specifically to calculate throwing trajectories. We can look at a moving target and instantly predict where it will be in 2 seconds. We do not even think about it. It happens automatically, like breathing. He handed her the rifle. It was lighter than she expected, perfectly balanced. The evolved as pack hunters, Minyu said. They chase their prey, surround it, and kill it with claws and teeth. They are very good at that. Their reflexes are faster than ours. Their eyes can see more colors than ours. Their bodies are stronger than ours. So how can I beat? Minyu smiled. Because none of those things matter in a shooting competition. Speed and strength are useless if you cannot predict where your target will be. And prediction is what humans do better than any species in the galaxy. He pointed at her head. In your brain, there is a special region that does nothing except calculate trajectories. It has been developing for 2 million years. Every time your ancestors threw a rock and missed, they were slightly more likely to die. Every time they threw a rock and hit, they were slightly more likely to survive and have children. After millions of years, the humans who were left were the greatest throwers in history. Felt the rifle in her hands. Something about Minyu's words was reaching a part of her that she did not know existed. Learned to shoot a few years ago, Minyu continued. He practiced hard. He became very good, but his brain does not have the same structures yours does. When he looks at a moving target, he has to consciously calculate where it will be. He has to think about speed, direction, distance. It takes time. It takes effort. He leaned closer. When you look at a moving target, your brain will do all of that calculation instantly, without you even noticing. You will simply know where to aim. You will feel it in your hands, your arms, your whole body. The rifle will become an extension of you, just like a spear was an extension of your ancestors. Raised the rifle and looked through the scope. The magnification showed the gray landscape outside in perfect detail. She could see every rock, every shadow, every grain of dust. How do I use this feeling? She asked. You do not use it, you let it use you. Minyu adjusted her grip slightly. When you see the target, do not think, do not calculate, do not analyze, just look at where you want the bullet to go and let your body do the rest. Trust 2 million years of evolution. Trust your blood. Practiced aiming at different points through the shuttle window. Each time she tried to clear her mind. Each time she tried to let her instincts take over. It was difficult at first. Her brain kept wanting to think, to plan, to worry. But slowly, something began to change. She noticed that when she stopped thinking, her hands became steadier. Her breathing became slower. The rifle felt less like a weapon and more like a part of her own arm. When she pointed at something, there was a strange feeling of rightness, like her body knew exactly what angle was needed. I think I understand, she said quietly. Minyu nodded. Good, but there is one more thing you need to know. He walked to the shuttle door and looked out at in the distance. Has killed 900 beings. That sounds impressive, but think about what it really means. Lowered the rifle. What does it mean? It means he has been in 900 dangerous situations and survived. That is good, but it also means something else. Minyu turned back to face her. Every kill he made because his opponent was afraid. He won because they panicked. They rushed their shots. They let his size and reputation break their focus. He walked over and put his hand on her shoulder, just like the commander had done earlier. You cannot let that happen to you. When you face him, you will feel fear. That is natural, but you must not let the fear control you. Remember what you are. Remember what your ancestors did. They stood on open grasslands and threw spears at mammoths. They faced saber-toothed cats with nothing but rocks and courage. They survived because they stayed calm when death was coming for them. Took a deep breath. I will remember. Good, Minyu stepped back. It is almost time, are you ready? Stood up, the rifle comfortable in her hands. The fear was still there, but it was smaller now. Behind it she could feel something else, something ancient and patient and dangerous. She was not just Lee, logistics officer. She was the latest in an unbroken line of survivors that stretched back to the first human who threw a rock at a predator and lived to tell about it. I am ready, she said. And for the first time since the aliens had arrived, she actually believed it. The firing line was a flat stretch of gray rock, cleared of dust by machines. 2 positions had been marked, 20 meters apart. On the left stood, his massive form casting a long shadow in the double sunlight. On the right stood Sergeant Lee, looking small enough to fit in his shadow twice. Behind each competitor their people watched. They stood in perfect military formation, confident in their champion. The humans clustered together, their faces hidden behind visors, their hearts full of hope and fear. Commander Park stood at the front of the human group, his arms crossed. Lieutenant was beside him, her hands clenched so tight that her gloves creaked. She can do this, said quietly. I hope you are right, sir, replied. Admiral walked to the center of the field. His voice boomed through every helmet radio on both sides. The rules are simple. 3 targets will appear at random distances. The first to hit all 3 targets wins. If both competitors hit all targets, the one with more accurate shots wins. If there is still a tie, additional targets will be added until a winner is determined. He turned to look at each competitor. Of the Empire, are you ready? Raised his black rifle, the one covered in kill marks. I am ready to add another victory to my weapon. Lee of Humanity, are you ready? Lifted her rifle, her hands were steady, her breathing was slow. Inside her helmet she could hear her own heartbeat, strong and regular. She remembered what Corporal Minyu had told her. Do not think, do not calculate, trust your blood. I am ready, she said. Walked off the field, first target begin. For a moment nothing happened. Then 3 kilometers away, a small drone launched into the air. It was the size of a dinner plate, painted bright orange to be visible against the gray landscape. It moved fast, zigzagging left and right in an unpredictable pattern. Reacted instantly. His alien reflexes kicked in and he raised his rifle with impossible speed. His 4 eyes tracked the drone, processing its movement with inhuman precision. He fired. The shot cracked across the silent moon. The bullet cut through the thin atmosphere, crossing 3 kilometers in less than 2 seconds. It passed within centimeters of the drone and vanished into the distance. A miss. There was a moment of shocked silence. Had never missed a target at this distance before. His eyes narrowed with anger, and he began tracking for a second shot. But was not watching, she was watching the drone. The orange disk danced across her scope, moving in patterns that her conscious mind could not predict. But she was not using her conscious mind. Somewhere deep in her brain, 2 million years of evolution were doing calculations that no computer could match. She did not aim at the drone. She aimed at where the drone would be. Her finger squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. The bullet flew across 3 kilometers of vacuum. The drone exploded into a shower of orange fragments. Silence. Then the humans erupted into cheers, grabbed his arm so hard he winced. The soldiers shouted and clapped and jumped. They had just witnessed something impossible. A logistics officer with no combat experience had outshot an alien super soldier on the very first target. Turned his head slowly to look at. For the first time in 900 battles, something like doubt appeared in his yellow eyes. Second target, announced. His voice was quieter now, less confident. This time the drone was 5 kilometers away. It was also smaller, barely visible even with magnification. And it was not moving. It simply hung in the air, a tiny dot against the blackness of space. Did not hesitate. He aimed, calculated, and fired. The bullet traveled for almost 4 seconds before it struck the drone. A hit, but the impact was off-center, barely clipping the edge. A good shot, a very good shot by any normal standard. Raised her rifle, 5 kilometers. The drone was so far away that she could barely see it even with the scope at maximum magnification. A tiny orange circle floating in darkness. She thought about her grandmother back on Earth. The old woman had lived in a small village and had told young stories about the old days, about hunters who brought down birds with stones, about farmers who protected their crops from pests with perfect throws. She had always said that the eye and the hand were connected by something deeper than nerves. Patience is the hunter's only weapon, her grandmother used to say. Rush, and you will miss. Wait, and the universe will guide your hand. Waited, she breathed out slowly. The rifle became still, so still that it might have been carved from stone. She fired. 4 seconds of silence. 4 seconds of waiting. 4 seconds in which the entire future of humanity hung in the balance. Then the drone shattered, a perfect hit dead center. The humans screamed with joy. Even some of them shifted uncomfortably, their confidence cracking. His armored hands tightened on his rifle until the metal groaned. How, he growled. She is untrained, she is inexperienced. How is she doing this? But no one answered him. No one could explain what they were seeing. Final target, announced. His 4 eyes were fixed on now, studying her like she was some kind of strange new species. In a way, she was. The third drone launched 7 kilometers away. It was moving fast, partially hidden behind rocky terrain that rose and fell across the lunar surface. The most difficult shot of all. Even with his 900 kills, had only made shots like this a handful of times. He raised his rifle. His hands were trembling slightly, though he would never admit it. For the first time in his life, was feeling something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of losing. Fear of being beaten by a creature half his size with none of his advantages. He tried to track the drone, but it kept disappearing behind the terrain. His eyes could see heat signatures, but the drone was cold, almost invisible against the frozen rocks. His reflexes were fast, but the target was moving in patterns his brain could not anticipate. He fired. The bullet flew across 7 kilometers of emptiness. It missed by 2 meters. He fired again, another miss. And again, another miss. Among the silence was heavy with disbelief. Their champion, their undefeated hero, was failing. Against a human. Against a tiny female human who had never even been in battle. Lowered his rifle. His yellow eyes were wide with something close to panic. The terrain is blocking my sight, he said. I cannot track it properly. No one responded. There was nothing to say. Watched the drone through her scope. It appeared and disappeared, dancing between the rocks like a ghost. 7 kilometers, moving fast, partially hidden, an impossible shot. But she did not think about impossibility. She did not think about distance or speed or terrain. She let her mind go quiet, let her body take over, let 2 million years of instinct flow through her like a river. The drone appeared from behind a rock. Her finger moved. The rifle fired. 7 kilometers away, 7 seconds later, the drone exploded into a cloud of orange dust. The silence that followed was absolute. No cheering, no shouting, just pure, stunned silence from every being on the moon. Then Admiral spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. The human wins. Dropped to his knees. His rifle fell from his hands and clattered on the gray stone. He stared at with all 4 of his eyes, trying to understand what had just happened. He had trained for decades. He had killed 900 enemies. He had believed himself to be the greatest marksman in the galaxy. And he had just been beaten by a logistics officer who counted boxes for a living. Commander walked forward, his boots loud in the silence. He stopped in front of and looked up at the massive alien. "We win," he said simply. "Your fleet will leave this system." Nodded slowly, his eyes still on. "Yes, you have won. We will honor the agreement." He paused. "But I must ask, how did she do that? Our scanners detected no cybernetic enhancements, no drugs, no advanced technology. She is just an ordinary human." Smiled. "That is exactly the point, Admiral. She is an ordinary human. Any of the 32 soldiers I brought today could have done the same thing." He gestured at his crew. "Any human could have done it." Stared at him. "Impossible." "No," said, "just human." Behind him finally lowered her rifle. Her hands were starting to shake now that it was over. Her heart was pounding and her legs felt weak, but she was smiling. She had just saved humanity, and she had done it by being exactly what she was. An ordinary human being. The fleet hung in space above station for 3 more days before leaving. During that time, Admiral made a request that surprised everyone. He wanted to talk, not about surrender or threats, but about humans. Commander Park agreed to meet him one final time. They sat in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars through a wall of glass. On one side of the table, occupied 3 chairs pushed together to support his massive frame. On the other side, sat with a cup of coffee in his hand, looking calm and comfortable. "I have been trying to understand," said. His translator had improved over the past few days, making his words sound more natural. "I have reviewed the recording of the duel 117 times. I have consulted with our scientists and our military experts. None of them can explain what we witnessed." Sipped his coffee. "What is there to explain? She hit the targets, she won." "But how?" Leaned forward, his 4 eyes intense. "Has enhanced vision. His eyes can see wavelengths that your species cannot even imagine. He can track movement faster than any human eye could follow. By every measurement, he should have won easily. And yet he lost." "Yes, to an untrained female who counts supplies," shook his massive head. "It makes no sense. Unless," he paused, studying his face, "unless you were telling the truth, unless any human really can do what she did." Set down his cup. "Admiral, let me tell you a story. About 40,000 years ago, my ancestors lived on a frozen continent. They had no claws, no fangs, no thick fur to protect them from the cold. The predators around them were bigger, faster, and stronger in every way." "They should have died," said. "Yes, they should have. But instead, they became the most successful predators on the planet. Do you know how?" Waited. "They learned to throw things." Picked up a small stylus from the table and held it between his fingers. "Rocks, spears, axes, anything they could hold they threw. And they threw with such accuracy that they could kill animals from distances those animals could not even comprehend." He tossed the stylus across the room. It flew in a perfect arc and landed exactly in a small cup on a shelf 15 meters away. His eyes followed the trajectory with clear surprise. "That was not luck," said. "That was 2 million years of evolution. My brain calculated the angle, the force, the air resistance, and the target position all in the time it took me to move my arm. I did not think about any of it. My body just knew." Was silent for a long moment. "Your entire species can do this. Every single one of us. Some are better than others, of course. Athletes train to be more accurate. Soldiers practice with weapons. But even our children can throw a ball and hit a target most of the time. It is as natural to us as breathing." "But we evolved as hunters too," said. "We have hunted prey for millions of years." "Yes, but you evolved as pursuit hunters. Your species chases prey until it collapses from exhaustion. You overwhelm targets with numbers and speed. You kill up close with claws and strength." Picked up his coffee again. "Humans evolved differently. We hunted from a distance. We threw things. We learned to predict where a running animal would be in 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then we threw something at that spot before the animal even got there. He took a long sip. That is why Sergeant Lee beat your champion, has fast reflexes, but he cannot predict the future. He can only react to what he sees. On the other hand, does not react. She anticipates. Her brain sees where the target will be before it gets there, and by the time has processed what he is looking at, she has already fired. Sat back in his chairs. The revelation seemed to hit him like a physical blow. This is why you were so confident. You knew that any human could win. Yes. You were not bluffing. No. The Admiral's 4 eyes moved to the window, looking out at the stars. We have conquered 17 systems. We have defeated species with greater strength than yours, faster ships than yours, more advanced weapons than yours. But we have never encountered a species where every individual is a potential sniper. And now you have. Nodded slowly. Now we have. He turned back to, Commander, I am going to tell you something that I have never told any conquered species, something that our empire has kept secret for thousands of years. Raised an eyebrow, I am listening. We are not the most powerful force in this galaxy. There are older empires, stronger species, things that even we fear. We have survived by being careful, by choosing our battles, by never fighting wars we cannot win. His voice dropped lower. And we have made it a law that we never attack a species that shows the potential to become a true threat. A true threat. A species that could challenge us at our peak. A species that, if allowed to grow, might one day defeat us not in a single battle but in a full war. Looked at with something that might have been respect. Your species has been traveling between stars for only 200 years. In that time, you have already spread to dozens of systems. You breed quickly. You learn quickly. And now I discover that every single one of you carries the ability to kill from a distance with natural precision that our best warriors cannot match. He stood up, his massive form rising like a mountain. When I return to my empire, I will recommend that humanity be added to the list of protected species, not because we wish to be kind to you, but because we recognize what you are. You are not weak prey to be conquered. You are sleeping predators who have not yet realized their own strength. Stood as well, and what happens when we wake up? Made that grinding sound that was his species' version of a laugh. That is why we are leaving, Commander. That is why I will tell every species in our territory to leave you alone. By the time humanity realizes what it truly is, we want to be very far away. He walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back one last time. Tell your Sergeant Lee that she has done something no being in the galaxy has ever done. She has made the Empire afraid. His 4 eyes glittered, and she did it without even trying. After left, stood alone in the observation deck. He watched the alien fleet begin to move, thousands of ships turning away from station, heading back toward whatever distant corner of the galaxy they had come from. Lieutenant found him there an hour later. She stood beside him, watching the last ships disappear into the darkness. They are really leaving, she said. Yes. Because of us, because of Sergeant Lee. Smiled, because of what Sergeant Lee represents, what all of us represent. He turned to face his lieutenant. Do you know what the most important thing about today is? Shook her head. It is not that we won. It is not that we saved the colony. He looked back at the stars. It is that we learned something about ourselves. For 200 years, we have been exploring space, believing that we were small and weak compared to the ancient powers out there. We built bigger ships, better weapons, stronger defenses, all because we were afraid of what we might find. And now we know the truth. We do not need bigger ships or better weapons. We already have the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. He tapped his temple. Right here, inside every human being. 2 million years of evolution that turned us into the deadliest throwers in existence. Thought about this, What do we do with that knowledge? We share it. We make sure every human in every colony knows what they are capable of. We stop being afraid of the darkness. Smiled again, and this time it was the smile of a predator who had finally realized he was not prey. They asked who our sniper was. They wanted us to pick our best warrior, our elite champion. They thought they could beat one human and break our spirit. He turned to face the stars, where the alien fleet was now just a collection of distant lights, growing smaller every second. But we do not have a best warrior. We do not have an elite champion, because every human is a warrior. Every human is a champion. Every human carries the blood of 2 million years of hunters who survived by throwing death at their enemies from beyond reach. He put his hand on shoulder. They asked who our sniper was. The answer is simple. The answer will echo across this galaxy for 1,000 years. The answer will make every empire think twice before threatening us again. He turned back to the window, watching humanity's future spread out before them in an endless ocean of stars. The answer is all of us. Far below, on the surface of the moon, Sergeant Leigh sat alone near the spot where she had won the duel. Her rifle lay beside her, no longer needed. She was looking up at the sky, watching the ships leave. She thought about everything that had happened, about being chosen randomly, about learning the truth of her own abilities, about standing against an alien champion and winning not through luck or technology, but through something that had always been inside her. Something that was inside every human. She picked up a small rock from the ground and threw it at a distant boulder. It hit dead center with a satisfying crack. She smiled. The galaxy would learn to fear that sound.